Okay. Well, so, um, okay. So let's talk about today's campaign first and foremost. Um, it was the second time we had met as a club, but the first time we got to play. So last week we did character creation, and there was, I think, 6 kids that came last week. This week, however, there was a lot more, quite a lot more. I guess news really got out, which was awesome. And that was super fantastic. Um, I am, yeah, like it was great. And I got to work with a lot of the kids about their characters. And as they started to file in, I realized there's like 16 kids. And I was like, well, like I've run tables for that big before, and you know, they're complicated and people get bored, and when teenagers are bored in a school, they misbehave. And I just wasn't super crazy about it. So I asked if anybody would be interested in being one of the DMs. And one of the kids said, yes, I'd love to. Because, and this is just so cool, the middle school, the local middle school, has a D&D club as well. And they, ninth graders, so they're new to our high school this year, had been playing their campaign last year and haven't gotten to play. And he asked, could we just continue the campaign we were already playing? And I was like, yeah, totes, you can totes do that. So he did. And he seems like a very upright young man. And the kids that joined his group listened to him. And I look forward to getting the chance to see him DM. I love getting to see other DMs hone their craft. Um, and so I look forward to getting to know that. But a few of the kids decided that he's doing this homebrew thing, and mostly it was the grade 9s who had come up from the middle school with him. And I had some of the upperclassmen, and I do have a couple grade 9s, but mostly the upperclassmen. And yeah, it was great. So I kind of knew who their characters were. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to D&D Beyond for sponsoring our club and um, giving us access to a bunch of sources so that we can run our campaign and we can run our club. I really, really appreciate it. They've sponsored me this is the second year now that they've sponsored me. Um, and it makes such a difference to be able to give kids the wealth of creativity in the canon so that they can do some really wonderful things. Um, so the campaign that I had chosen to run is Tales from the Yawning Portal, which I streamed kind of getting started last week. And I just thought I would go over the campaign diary today and then talk a little bit about running a D&D club at a school, and talk about my future, and maybe if I have a little bit of time, do some prep for next week. I say if I have a little bit of time, but that's because, of course, it is Thursday, which is the most important D&D watching night of the week for me. Because if you haven't heard of Critical Role, you should go and watch them. They play Thursday nights at 7 Pacific, which is 11 my time. It's a real late night for me. Usually I only watch until the break, and then I pick up the rest over the next couple days. Oh no. Okay, so the campaign diary. We started, as all good stories do, with our heroes having assembled in a tavern. Now, not just any tavern. As I described to them, they had come to Neverwinter for some reason, and they get to choose what that reason is. We didn't really do a session 0, or at least this is maybe the closest we'll get to it. But they had all assembled in Neverwinter for one reason or another. And I had them assembling at the Yawning Portal Tavern. Now, if you've looked at the Yawning Portal, which came out, I think, in 2017, it is a collection of the classic dungeons from previous versions of the game, and they've been updated to follow the 5e mechanics. But it, for me, because I've really only played 5th edition, like I played in high school, it must have been like AD&D. I remember Thaco being a thing and really not understanding it. And I played with a bunch of the tech nerds from my theater department, and they were super into like min-maxing and the statistics. And I was an actor and a tech, and I wanted to do more of the role play part. And so I really struggled with how um, like complicated, to be honest, it was. And I wasn't really a gamer very much back then. And so I played and it was okay, but I don't have super fond memories of it. Like I remember that we played. Um, and I remember people getting mad at me because I was playing wrong, um, which was hard because I didn't understand why. Um, but that aside, I had played Star Wars RPG, and there's a really great Hobbit, Lord of the Rings RPG out there, and I had played those over the years. And about 18 months ago, one of my friends, I brought up, oh, I'd love to play D&D, and she went, yeah, let's do it. And our kids were the right age, and so we thought, we'll get the kids, we'll play a game for the kids, and so we'll play short games. And I just really fell in love with 5th edition. It was accessible and it was easy to find the role play hooks. Um, but it also had the math that now, as an adult and as a teacher, I really appreciate the creativity, the collaboration, the problem solving. I'm going to go back to the collaboration time and time again. So, um, but Tales from the Yawning Portal is this collection of older dungeons. And I know some of them, like I've heard them from other nerds. And so I've always wanted to play them. And I thought this would be a great chance. So, um, so, okay. So, we started in the Yawning Portal Tavern. And this tavern isn't just a normal tavern. This tavern has a pretty distinguishable element that sets it apart from other taverns in the city of Skilled Hands, which is what Neverwinter is. It also appears much older than the rest of the city around it in my version. The middle of the tap room floor opens into a 40-foot wide hole. It was a deep pit of nearly. It was a deep pit, period. C is the name of our gnome ranger of chaos. I think his murder hobo-ness will be something that we have to rein in quite a bit. But the gnome ranger of chaos tried to just run and jump straight down the pit. And I just can't let a player character, I had to kind of set a tone. And all of the teachers will understand, and all of the DMs will understand immediately what I say. Um, I didn't, I am not interested. Maybe you're interested. I'm not interested in playing a game that is super chaotic. I'm a teacher, so I deal with chaos all day professionally, and barely contain it is the role these days. And I didn't want that. And I have a story to tell, and I want to tell this story. And also, I struggle with, like, there's that famous saying, your right to swing your fist ends where my face begins. And I think that that's true. And so, I kind of did a play on that for the kids. And I said, your right to chaos ends where it stops becoming enjoyable for other people around you. Um, so how I dealt with that in game was I had the big, meaty, sweaty, hairy arm of the bartender just clothesline this little gnome and just drop him. He was told that he had to pay his way down and then back up if he survived, and that it was 1 gold each way. Now, the characters all start with like 10 or 15 gold. So he did have that, and he was like, okay, let's go. And so, what did he say? There was something about 100 gold. I don't remember. There was something that happened about 100 gold. So this is why you should take notes as you're going. And I didn't. That will change. I'm usually really good about taking notes. Anyway, Aelin is our tiefling sorcerer, and she stealthed her way up to the second story. So around this pit, there's 2 more stories, second and third story. And they climb up this tower, and it's like viewing to, like, what's that thing called? Medieval times, where you eat and you view down into the pit. And Aelin stealthed her way up to the second story and watched as an adventuring party got raised from the depths after their payment, of course. They were wrecked, y'all. They were wrecked. They had ichor and blood. One of the characters was like hobbling because half of his foot was missing. They had guts all over them. It was a hot mess. And as she questioned them, she learned that they had all been very well armed and supplied. I tried my best in character to give the impression that they were quite a bit of a higher level than the starter level 1 characters, and that they had barely escaped with their lives, losing 4 members of their party in the process. I really want to give the hook that the portal is not a safe place for them to go right now, because the Tales from the Yawning Portal, there's many ways to begin this. It all begins in this Yawning Portal tavern and then goes to these other dungeons. Well, the dungeons have nothing to do with the tavern. And I'm going to have it that the tavern is the place that they come back to at the end for the final thing. But for now, I'm going to get them to go out. So anyway, Aelin, tiefling sorcerer. Delwyn is a centaur barbarian. I've never had a centaur in a campaign. I have watched some YouTube videos to see what that's all about. He politely introduced himself to the bartender, and asked about the portal. This young man who plays Delwyn is really funny, really outgoing, tried an accent, which I loved. Durnan is the bartender, explained that he owed all that he had to adventuring down there, and that he had adventured many, many years before. I'm starting to see this idea that actually Durnan and this bar are quite a bit older than a human should be. And he built this tavern to allow others to try their hand or fate at the same adventure. The tavern started to fill up as the night went on, and a woman went around from our player to player, addressing them with a job offer. She kind of would wander up to one of them and just say, "Come on, the job's ready," or "Come on, I've got a job for you," and then walk away. And they had to follow her. And as they did, they follow her down to this table, and pretty much all of the player characters got invited that way, except for the Gnome Ranger of Chaos. I had her pick him up by the scruff of his shirt and put him down. He's going to need some more direct direction. That's a thing. I think is going to be important for him until he gets in the habit of what we're doing here. Aqua, who is our Dragonborn Paladin, there's so many funny things, but when you're running a D&D club at a high school during a global pandemic in a province where masks are mandatory and 6 feet distance is mandatory, hearing each other, and while there's another loud group right next to you, hearing each other becomes a bit of a problem. And so this Dragonborn Paladin kind of, kept his hand at his side and said, "I keep my hand on my sheath." Well, sheath sounds a lot like a sheep. And so one of the other players kind of turned to one of the other kids and went, "Why do you have a sheep in a tavern?" And he just went with it. He was like, totally yes and he went, "This is my sheep, Henry." And we all just kind of laughed about it for a bit. So in my GM notes in my campaign diary, that this is what I read to the players next week to kind of remind them where we are. I'll say that Aqua kept his sheep Henry by his side. He decided the name was Henry the sheep. as he cautiously made his way to her and the table. And then the woman threw them each a bag of gold and told them that their job was to remove a cursed tree. Now, most of the characters went, "Yep, gold tree, job done," and grabbed the pouch. But the paladin held off, asking for more detail. The woman conjured, I had her draw a sigil and then flick over a minor illusion of a little tree and a humanoid sitting under it. And as the humanoid sat and he got a little bit older, he eventually ate a bite of the fruit of this tree. And like the illusion zooms in on him, and you can see his eyes go black, and you can see black sickness and curse and blight cover his veins and down through his eyes. Like, we all know what that cinematic moment looks like. We've all seen that in fantasy science, in fantasy movies. So I had that. And Aqua said, but she's still not, I still don't trust her. And I said, okay, we'll roll an insight check. And so he did. And he rolled a natural 1. And this is where the interesting piece of that, I think one of my favorite things about being, looking at it from the teacher side, looking at it from the, especially from a drama teacher or even just an English teacher, talking about character and about how just because you would do something or you know something doesn't mean that your character would do that or knows that. And so I said, well, you do believe that she is still not telling you the truth. That's obvious to everybody. But there's something about this illusion that this little cartoon that she's played for you that has really struck a chord with you, and you feel like this is an evil. Now you have a target, there is an evil, and you need to eradicate it. And he went, okay. And I'm super excited for that. So he was moved by what he saw, and he agreed to the job. And as soon as he takes the pouch, he was the last of the group. As soon as he took the pouch, they all flashed, all of the pouches, all of the players' pouches flashed with a purple arcane energy, and text started to spread across the pouch. And so one of the players said, well, what does it, I want to read it. What does it say? And I hadn't really planned for this. Like, all of this was kind of made up on the spot. But basically I said, and then your character name. I said, here's what's funny. I said, and then your name shows up. I, your name, undertake this contract. I will destroy the cursed tree, whether by my life or my death. And then also that your signature appeared, although you didn't sign it. And at that point, the woman bade them a good evening and head out the door. And it was 4:30. Like, it went by so fast. And that was great. It was really cool to see, and the kids really enjoyed it, and they're super into it, and they're ready for next week is exam week, but they're like, we're going to come even though we don't have exams that day because we want to play. Okay, great. So a couple of things about some other things that I do, like during the first session, to get to know my characters better, especially when I'm dealing with students. Although just generally as a DM, I do this as well. And I learned this from Matt Mercer from I want to say the Tales of Wildemount book has this thing of like the hero's chronicle, where you want to get your players to tell you things about their characters that they want to do, because even if you're using a pre-made campaign, which we are, you want to be able to give them time to grow as characters instead of just being dungeon crawlers. And so I like for the kids or for my players to tell me anything that informs their character. So if they, for instance, were abandoned at birth, I want to know that because that informs their character. If they know who their parents are, great. Give me as much detail as you can about anything that informs your character. And as we go, you might add stuff to that. You might go, oh, yes, well, my character, was raised by her aunt, even though you hadn't thought about that in the first session. You come across that in the 10th game that we play. Put it into your notes. But the other thing that I have my players do is I have them tell me one thing they want to do before they die, like their characters, right? One thing they want to do before they die, one thing, one person or place they'd like to see, or build a connection with. That's what I said. One person or place you'd like to build a connection with. And what was the second question? It was they're from Matt Mercer, Dungeon Master Extraordinaire. It was a thing you'd like to see before you die. No, a thing you'd like to do before you die. A person or place you'd like to connect with. There's a third thing. I can't think of what it is right now. But when I remember, it's probably written on my board. I wrote them on my whiteboard at school. I'll go tomorrow. And I could probably ask in the Discord. No, it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm not going to ask my students in Discord. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of where we are for the campaign as of now. I am excited to see where this takes us. As I said, thank you again to D&D Beyond for sponsoring our club. I'm super stoked for what that means. We're going to go into the Sunless Citadel. Oh, this is the woman, Nanindi. None of them even asked for her name, but this is Nanindi. She's named after one of my favorite authors. She writes the Binti series, which if you like African futurism or science fiction at all, you will like the Binti series. It's phenomenal. It reminds me a lot of Ender's Game. Actually, it's phenomenal. You should read it. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. So I need to do some prep for next week. And I'm excited to see where that takes us. I need to figure out how Miss Okorafor gets them from Neverwinter to the starting thing. So we use I will be using Roll20 to host all of our maps. And so I had started today. Yeah, this is. So this is obviously the Sword Coast of Faerun, and Neverwinter is up here. Neverwinter's up here. In the Tales from the Yawning Portal, the Sunless Citadel is suggested. So here's something that I really like about this is depending on where you're playing, this gives you hints as to where you can put this. So in Forgotten Realms, the Sunless Citadel was once a secret stronghold of the Cult of the Dragon, located in the foothills northwest of Thunder Tree. It plunged into the earth when Mount Hauntenow erupted and threw Neverwinter into chaos. So it first suggests that you go to Oakhurst to get any supplies and things that you need. I don't know if I'll have them go they'd have to go all the way from Neverwinter down to Phandalin and then back up to, you see these red dots, that's where they'd be going. That's a lot of travel when they could just go like that. So I might have them go straight from Neverwinter to the Sunless Citadel. But I need to read through, as part of my prep, I need to read through and see how important it is that it's like a small town as opposed to just Neverwinter. And that's something I need to do. Yeah, and I'm super excited. I did, even though I haven't really read through the Sunless Citadel yet, I did go ahead and prep the maps today. I just had a little bit of time. And so this is the entrance to the Sunless Citadel. And you can see I've just cropped it. I've aligned it to the grid. Not that I think that matters too much. I hope that they don't get into combat. It's like giant rats, I think, at this level. And then the dungeon 1, and you can see that I've enabled Fog of War on it, and then the dungeon 2 as well is down here. So I'll be using these with my projector to just kind of give references. Think. I think that's what I'm gonna do. The kids do all have Chromebooks. We're one-to-one Chromebooks with all of our students. So maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe. I don't know. I guess I could have them. I don't even know if Roll20 works on our Wi-Fi network at school. Things I need to find out. But yeah, that's kind of where we are for our game. I use this is OneNote to organize. If I go into my other DM guide over here, you can see this is for our Saturday night game, and like our game notes are from we've been playing for 18 months, but I have like characters and their backstories. I keep track of like things that the players have, because when like I'll give them stuff randomly and then I'll forget about it when they get back to a city and try to trade it in. Um, I'll be like, I don't know how much that is or how much it's worth. Like, I don't remember giving you that at all. I also keep track of all of the cities that they visit or towns that they visit, and like any people that they might come into contact with, any of the particular encounters, different factions. Abjur's Watch is something that we're just about to start. This is the Neverwinter guide that I created. This guy is one of my favorite characters. First off, the guy who does this art is one of my favorite artists for NPCs. He does this whole NPC series, but Sand is just one of the coolest characters. Fandolin. And then any tables, like I have NPC character names in case something. Heart-wrenching loot was from a Reddit thread. Different like random town adventures and just like random tables, because I know a lot of people keep all of their DM's guide and everything, but our game, my Saturday night home game, is all online because we moved this summer across the country and all of my players are back west. So I keep, so we play online. We use Roll20 and D&D Beyond. So I do have all of my books, but it's a little bit easier for me to just do it all on the computer. I've got my computer here. I've got my second screen over here. And yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. I will be doing more session prep later this. I will be doing some session prep for my Saturday night game. I don't know if I will stream that on Twitch because all of my players follow me on social media and would see it. And I'm fairly confident that they wouldn't actually watch anything that gives away their story. They're quite wonderful. But I might do some session prep for the Dungeons and Dragons Club at the high school, and but I might not do that until kind of Monday or something. So yeah, thank you for watching. We're just exactly at like 30 minutes. Thank you for watching, and I am looking forward to sharing more of our campaign diary with you.